We recently rented a campervan and drove around New Zealand for 5 weeks from Auckland to Christchurch, discovering both the North and the South Island. If you would like to see our full itinerary of our 5 weeks road trip and know which campsites we stayed at, head to our blog, which is listed in the description, or watch our 5-part series available here on our YouTube channel. As it was our first time visiting New Zealand, we want to share what we learned and give you some tips for when you rent a campervan here. We hope that you find it useful, and if you like this video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more campervan adventures and travel tips. If you are still looking for a campervan to rent, I recommend checking out our partnership company. You can find our affiliated link in the description below. If you book with them via us, we get a small commission, but you still pay the same competitive price. They often have promotions running with up to 30% off, so make sure that you check out their prices first. So let's jump into our top tips for renting a campervan in New Zealand. Number 1. Full insurance. You have probably seen the different insurance options when you have been looking around at rental prices. Even if you drive carefully, unexpected things can happen. Things like road debris, strong winds, or mechanical issues can cause damage, and repairs can be very expensive. That's why we highly recommend getting the full insurance. Many rental companies offer different levels of coverage. The basic insurance usually comes with a high deductible, meaning that you have to pay a bigger portion if something goes wrong. Full insurance, on the other hand, reduces or removes the deductible and gives you a peace of mind. And trust us, you don't want to take any chances. On our trip, we experienced what seems to be a water leakage. After 4 days, no water was coming out of the sink, and even though we had filled up the tank as instructed. Instead, every time we added water, it started leaking from all sides of the van. Luckily, we had full insurance, and after calling the emergency number, the rental company sent us to a shop in the nearest city. They fixed the issue in just 30 minutes without charging us anything. Number 2. A one-way fee and extra drivers. When booking a campervan, one important thing to consider is whether you'll be starting and ending your trip in the same city. We chose to pick up our van in Auckland and drop it off in Christchurch. While this is a great way to see both islands, it often comes with a one-way fee. This fee can vary, and sometimes rental companies might waive the fee or even offer a discount to relocate their vehicles. Another cost to consider is adding an extra driver. If you are traveling with a partner or a friend, it's worth paying for an additional driver so that you can take turns on long stretches. It's a good idea to clarify both of these costs before booking, so there are no surprises when you're picking up your van. Number 3. Unlimited kilometers. New Zealand is bigger than it looks on a map, and you will likely end up driving much more than you expected. Some rental companies offer limited kilometer packages, meaning you'll have to pay extra if you go over a certain distance. These charges can add up very quickly, especially if you're exploring both the North and the South Island. To avoid unexpected costs, we highly recommend choosing a campervan with unlimited kilometers. This way, you can enjoy your trip without constantly worrying about how far you've driven. To give you an idea, our trip, we covered 5,856 kilometers over 5 weeks. Having unlimited kilometers gave us the freedom to take scenic detours, explore hidden spots, and change our plans without any stress. Number 4. Fuel policy. Campervans in New Zealand typically run on either diesel or gasoline, and it's important to know the difference before booking. Diesel is generally cheaper at the pump, but there is a catch. New Zealand has a road user charge, RUC tax, for diesel vehicles, which you will need to pay separately when you are returning your van. We had a gasoline vehicle and drove almost 6,000 kilometers during our trip. We ended up paying $942 for petrol. Had we rented a diesel vehicle instead, the fuel would have been a little bit cheaper, but we would have also needed to pay around $250 in the RUC tax. So it all depends on your travel plans and how much driving you expect to do. Understanding the fuel policy before booking can help you avoid unexpected expenses at the end of your trip. Number 5. Self-contained vehicle. This was the first time we came across the terminology self-contained vehicle. When renting a campervan in New Zealand, you might have seen this term as well. This refers to a van that has built-in toilet and or grey water tank, making it fully equipped for independent camping. These vehicles allow you to camp in more remote and scenic spots, as you are not required to stay in a designated campsite. If you are planning to do what's so-called freedom camping, you will need to rent a self-contained vehicle. While it's not mandatory for all types of camping, having one gives you more flexibility, especially if you are venturing off the beaten path. Self-contained vehicles are usually bigger in size, have more amenities, and are therefore more expensive. We opted for a van that was not self-contained, which was more budget-friendly for us. One example of a freedom camping site is Lake Pearson in the South Island. We would have loved to stay a night in this beautiful lake, but as we did not have a self-contained vehicle, we just made a quick stop. If you get a self-contained vehicle, just make sure that you have the sticker that says that on your vehicle when you pick it up. Number 6. The vehicle condition. Before you drive off, inspect the vehicle thoroughly and make sure that you take photos and videos of both the inside and the outside. This will help you to document any existing damage or wear and tear. Most rental companies already do this, but it's always a good idea to have your own record just in case. It's also helpful to check if all the equipment, like the kitchen, gas and fridge, is in working condition. That way, if something goes wrong during a trip, you have proof of the condition when you first picked up the van. This might seem like an obvious one, but before you arrive in New Zealand and before you pick up your campervan, make sure that you have your driver's license valid for use in New Zealand. Depending on where your license is from, you might need an international driver's permit, an IDP. In many cases, you can get one online and it's usually valid for 1 year. In our case, the rental company accepted our online licenses, but it's always a good idea to check with the rental company if they accept online or if you need to have one printed. As you might already know, New Zealand drives on the left side, and it might take a little bit of getting used to, especially if you are from a country where you drive on the right side. Just be extra cautious when navigating intersection, roundabouts or making turns, as your instinct might tell you you are going the wrong way. We had just come up from a 4-week road trip in Australia, so we were already used to driving on the left side. But if it is your first time, remember, look right, keep left. You'll get used to it very quickly, and after a short time, it actually feels quite natural. Long distances. New Zealand's road offers some of the most scenic drives in the world, but many of them are long and winding, especially in more remote areas. You will likely be covering long distances, so it's important to plan your driving times and avoid driving too late into the night. During a 5-week road trip, we covered 5,856 kilometers, and while the views are breathtaking, some days felt longer than expected. We recommend planning your route with plenty of breaks, especially if you are driving for several hours at a time. One thing to note is that gas stations can be far apart on long stretches, especially in the South Island. For example, the drive from Te Anau to Milford Sound is about 2 hours and 120 kilometers with no gas stations along the way. We made sure to fill up in Te Anau before we left, and again when we returned. Always keep an eye on your fuel levels and plan refueling stops ahead of time, especially in the more remote areas where the next gas station might be quite far away. And there are often signs on the road that says how far the next gas station is. In New Zealand, some rental companies impose road restrictions. meaning that there are certain roads or areas that you may not be allowed to drive your rental van on. Make sure to check with your rental company beforehand about any restricted areas, especially if you're planning to venture off the beaten path. For us, this meant that we had to miss out on Crown Range Road, one of the most scenic drives in New Zealand, as well as a section of the north of Coromandel Peninsula. It was a bit sad, but it's important to follow the rules to avoid fines. After all, it's better to be safe than sorry and to keep your trip stress-free. There are also a few roads in New Zealand that have tolls, and they're all located in the North Island. You can also set your Google Maps to avoid toll roads to not have to pay any toll during your road trip. 11. Single-lane bridges. New Zealand has many single-lane bridges, especially in the South Island. This is on the list because it was the first time that I encountered this, and there's a lot of them, especially on the west side and near Mount Cook. Before crossing, slow down and watch for the signs to see which direction has to go first. And it's not always the clearest view, and some bridges can be quite long. Number 12. Weather conditions. New Zealand's roads are often steep, narrow and full of sharp curves, especially in the mountains and coastal areas. When it rains, roads can get very slippery, making it even more dangerous. We witnessed a terrible accident on a winding road where a car had flipped upside down in a curb. It even had a baby seat inside, which was a chilling reminder to always drive cautiously. Fog is also common, and the wind can be very strong, which we experience a lot along the east coast and during the inland drive to Mount Cook. On the scenic roads, also expect cars and campervans to stop unexpectedly and park along the road as people pull over to take photos. So stay alert and keep a safe distance, and only park in designated parking and viewing areas. Emergency number. If something happens to your campervan on the road, knowing who to call can save you a lot of stress. Rental companies usually provide an emergency contact number for breakdowns or repairs. If they don't mention it when you pick up the van, make sure to ask for it. We had an issue with what seemed to be a water leakage. After 4 days, our sink stopped working, and every time we filled up the water tank, it just leaked straight out from the bottom of the van, and we called the emergency number. They directed us to a repair shop in the nearest city, and they fixed the problem within just 30 minutes, and it didn't cost us anything. It wasn't our fault that it was broken, but thanks to the full insurance, there were no questions asked. Not related to the campervan rental or the road trip, but be aware that New Zealand has a very strict biosecurity rules, and you will need to declare if you are carrying any items that have been used for outdoor activities. This includes things like hiking boots and hiking poles. You cannot have dirty or muddy shoes. When we arrived, we declared that we had hiking shoes with us in our backpacks, and the custom officers asked to see them. As we knew about this, we had cleaned our shoes thoroughly the night before. You might have to pay a fine if your shoes are too muddy. Plan your route. Planning your route ahead of time is important to make sure that you hit the spots that you want to visit. We covered almost 6,000 kilometers in 5 weeks, and even though we had some flexibility in our plans, we had to adjust our routes several times. If you only have a couple of weeks, you'll probably have to pick if you want to go to the North or the South Island. Keep in mind that some distances are very long, and many popular destinations are far inland or on the coast. For example, the drive to Milford Sound from Channel is 2 hours one way, and you will need to drive back the same way. Mount Cook is also at the end of a dead-end road, so be sure to account for these detours when planning your route. Some popular destinations, especially during peak season, require advanced booking, such as certain campsites and activities. One of the trickiest parts of planning was making sure that we could make it to the inter-island ferry. which you definitely need to book well in advance if you're traveling during high season. However, it's also important to stay flexible. We travel during peak season, but only book campsites a day or two in advance, and that worked out perfectly for us. The Inter-Island Ferry. When traveling between the North and the South Island of New Zealand, you will need to take the Inter-Island Ferry. The two main ferry companies operating between the islands are Inter-Islander and Blue Bridge. The ferries depart several times daily from Wellington in the North Island and arrive in Picton in the South Island. We travel during peak season, Christmas and New Year's, so we booked our ferry 3 months in advance, knowing how busy it could get. However, despite booking early, we thought, our only option available was an overnight ferry, and unfortunately, all sleeping cabins were fully booked. This meant that we had to make the journey without a cabin, which wasn't ideal for a 3.5 hours trip. While there are seats and even a movie theater on board, many passengers ended up sleeping on the floor. We were lucky to get 2 seats in the movie theater so we could get a couple of hours of sleep. It's a good reminder to check availability well in advance, as ferries can fill up very quickly, especially during peak season. Laundry might not be something that you immediately think about when preparing for a road trip, but after a week or 2 on the road, you'll likely want to refresh your clothes. Many campsites in New Zealand offer laundry facilities, often with washers and dryers, and the cost is usually around 4 to 6 New Zealand dollars per load. In general, you can pay by card in all of New Zealand, even in smaller stores, but make sure that you get some cash and keep the coins, as many campsites still operate coin machines. But in some places, you can find the ones where you pay by card. We also spotted a few laundry facilities in towns and cities if you're not staying in campsites with laundromats. 18. Sandflies. Sandflies are a big issue in New Zealand, especially in the South Island. They are tiny but can be really irritating, leaving itchy bites worse than mosquito bites. We quickly learned that sandfly-specific repellent and even sandfly candles are a must. In some areas, like the West Coast, we could not even sit outside in the evenings because of them. We had heard about the sandflies from other travelers, but didn't think it was going to be that bad. They completely destroyed my legs. Avoid this and make sure that you bring sandfly repellent, as it works much better than regular insect spray. You can buy it in the supermarkets or outdoor stores in New Zealand. Groceries. New Zealand has a variety of supermarkets, such as Countdown, New World, and Pack and Save, where you can stock up on food for your road trip. While supermarkets are fairly easy to find in cities, you might need to plan ahead when traveling to more remote areas, as grocery stores can be limited. For example, the closest grocery store to Arthur's Pass is 1.5 hours away. We also found that food prices are higher than in many other countries. It's a good idea to buy in bulk when you are in bigger cities and stock up with what you need to save some money. Pay it forward. When you return your campervan, consider paying it forward by leaving behind any items you won't use or can't keep. Many drop-off locations have donation boxes where you can leave things like extra food, camping gear, or supplies. These small acts of kindness help other travelers who might need them. It's a simple way to help others and leave a little positive impact on someone else's adventure. Equally, when you arrive and pick up your van, have a look in the donation box to see if there's anything that you need. When traveling in New Zealand, buying a local SIM card is a good idea for navigation and staying connected. Avoid purchasing SIM cards at the airport, as they tend to be more expensive. Instead, head to the official stores or supermarkets and top up online for better rates. We used both One NZ, which cost $40 for 40 gigabytes, and 2 degrees, which had unlimited data for 30 days for $54. We found that their coverage was similar, but note that coverage is limited in remote areas. And remember that campsites don't have Wi-Fi, so you rely on data for social media and other entertainment too. New Zealand is one of the most expensive countries we've visited, not just for SIM cards and groceries, but for many other things as well. Which brings us to the last part of this video on how much did our trip cost. We spent $1,150 on campsites, $1,931 on groceries, $942 on petrol, $1,006 on activities such as Hobbiton, Milford Sound, and also 5 days New Year's festival tickets. $858 on food and beverage, which is eating outside. And lastly, we paid $7,100 for our campervan rental. This sounds a bit steep, but keep in mind that this was including the full insurance, so we didn't have to pay anything if there was any damages to the car. And we rented a van during New Zealand's peak season over Christmas and New Year's. In total, we spent $12,987. Yep, New Zealand is the most expensive country we have visited to date. Now, you can definitely save money by avoiding going during peak season and using our link below, which will take you to motorhome rentals in New Zealand, and they often have offers up to 30% discount. So make sure to check out their prices first.